the type 3 is striving to feel outstanding, according to the awareness to action Enneagram language. Here, the 3 is being driven to feel successful, to be successful, and to kind of be seen as successful. They want to be admired. They want to go far. They want to go fast. They are striving to show up as they hit their goals. They're very goal-oriented. They're very adaptable as well. And then they walk into a room, and I don't know that 3s think about it a lot or give themselves credit for this, but they walk into a room and kind of assess who's in the room, what's going on, and then who do I need to be in this room. So we'll talk about 3s having just typically a very natural, almost on default, political savviness, where they're just kind of these networking comes really easy. Sometimes one of their nicknames is called the shapeshifter or the chameleon. And when they're really dialed in and using that, it can be such a benefit to make the connections they need to make, to let the people who need to know about their success or their team's success know. And then when it's overdone, it can kind of give off some inauthentic vibes, which specifically for our type 4 can cause some friction. So we'll get to that in just a minute. Sometimes 4 or 3s have a reputation for being a little vain. That walking into the room, dressed to impress. Who do I need to be? Type of energy can feel like, gosh, it's just so much vanity over here. But a 3 is really thinking more about it's not vanity, it's success. Or you could even get a little deeper and think of it as it's survival. I need to put this hat on here and I need to put this other hat on here in order for me to be successful and in order for me to survive. 3s learned early on that they picked up somewhere. There's a story that they picked up that love and value are things that you earn. You earn them through achieving. I know there are several different versions of earning love and care and appreciation and feeling valuable. You feel like you have to earn it. Different ways, a 2 might think, okay, it's how much I help. It's how much I give. It's how much I self-sacrifice. 3 is very much how much I achieve. But underneath that, a lot of times there's some type of fear, some version of fear that without those accomplishments, there's really nothing worth seeing. And so 3s can spend a lot of energy, a lot of focus on that job title. What's my job title? What's the company that I work for? And then that's kind of who I am, regardless of how good of a parent I am, a friend, how good at, pickleball I am. I want to be good at all those things, but it's really that work more than anything. And I want to make sure that we kind of understand the tender part here for the 3, because sometimes, especially from our 4s, they can be frustrated with the 3s and think that they're self-absorbed or only looking out for themselves, only care about their own success, that they're shallow, that they're fake. And I really want us to understand what is underneath that. And I think we all probably have a little bit of this. Anytime we talk about the 3, there's usually some version of me saying we can all relate to this probably to some degree. I think this is very much baked into our culture, specifically here in the United States. We have the grades, you are kind of your report card, the college that you went to, and then the job that you get. So That's our 3. Our type 4s are striving to feel unique. Authenticity is very important, having significance. The core driver here for the 4 is they want to be genuine. They want to belong for being their one-of-a-kind, unique self, and also be accepted for that. That is very important. They want to have that self-significance, doing something meaningful. That might show up as being really creative, having a lot of emotional depth, and, might push back a little bit on the status quo, anything that feels generic, surface level, fake in any way. And there are going to be some very obvious differences between these two. And you might think, oh gosh, how would these two ever get along? Well, as we go through this, you're also going to see that striving to feel outstanding is not that much different than striving to feel unique and have significance. So also, these types have a lot of things that overlap and that they could appreciate about each other. The differences, but also there's some similarities. For our 4s, sometimes they have a reputation for being kind of melancholy, maybe dramatic. I think a 4 would say, I don't experience myself like that, or maybe they would. I don't know. 4s, you'll have to tell us. But it's really just a really dialed in sense of, how do I say that? They're just very sensitive. There we go. They're very sensitive to meaning, what something means, what's behind this. And they're just really tuned in for it and always kind of looking for that deeper meaning. 4s can feel the gap between what is and then what could be more, I guess. I'll just leave it there. This is good, but this, I think that we could go deeper. I think that we could go more. And this is one of those areas where the 1 and the 4 overlap. They have a connecting arrow already. And then we have talked in previous episodes, and we'll talk again about the 1 and the 4 working together in the future. But this is one of those very core similarities. And, you can kind of look like a 1 with that frustration. Oh, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as beautiful. It wasn't as creative. It wasn't as meaningful as I thought it could be. And so they're really focused on that. They can feel that a lot more intensely maybe than some of the other types. So underneath all of that for a 4 is this fear that they are fundamentally flawed. It's just they are inherently defective. They are just missing something that everyone else seems to have. Okay, so it's definitely a different kind of fear than the 3, but also very similar, right? When you hear about those. So I think these two are going to find out they have a lot more in common than they think. And then the differences that they have can be such wonderful complements when they're both self-aware and aware of each other. Somebody had said, let's see, I heard this before. 3 is striving to feel outstanding. 4 is striving to feel unique. 1 is kind of asking, what does the scoreboard say? Where are we here? That would probably be our 3. Where are we? And then we have our 4 questioning the scoreboard. Like, is the scoreboard even measuring the things that we care about? The meaningful things, are they even measuring the right things? And so when you put these together, you are able to have great achievements with also a lot of great, deep meaning. So let's look at the strengths of when these two coworkers are paired up. There is the 3, the 7, the 8 are part of that. Let's go far, let's go fast. And other Enneagram modalities, frameworks, you will hear about stances. 3s are in that assertive, sometimes known as aggressive stance. Leap and the net will appear. Let's leap and we'll kind of figure it out as we go. Whereas the 4 wants to slow down a little bit, wants to kind of process, wants to think about it a little bit more. When we're talking about about stances, they are in the withdrawn stance with the 4, the 5, and the 9, where they just are a little bit slower to respond, a little bit slower to act. And for the 4, it's, I want to understand. I want to understand the meaning. I want to understand what's behind there. Is there a way to kind of do something different here that would be more meaningful, that would be more creative? And so when you have those together, you can produce this work that doesn't just hit the goal, but it also stands out. So you have quality and you have impact. Our 4s are also can also help the 3 go a little deeper. Sometimes our threes are absolutely capable of it. It's just sometimes, do I have the time? Do I have the time to think about this myself? Somebody else to think about it and process this with them? A lot of times the answer is no. But when you have that 4 around you, and you have that 4 kind of helping you, you can move fast and go far towards that goal. But with the energy of the 4, you kind of have maybe a pause where you can slow down and think about, how might we be able to differentiate ourselves here? How could we work a little different and not just be technically impressive? What are some maybe other outside of the box ways that we might be impressive, and how could we go a little bit deeper? How could we connect with our potential clients through marketing a little bit different? How might we be able to connect with our clients a little bit deeper, depending on bringing in some of this energy of the 4. And then when you think about those stances, we have that assertive, go far, go fast. Our 4s maybe wanting to slow down and process a little bit. The 3 can maybe inspire some quicker action, some more forward momentum with the 4. So 4s can very much struggle with getting caught up in the pursuit of this grand idea, and then they struggle to actually implement it, make it happen, ship it out. So with that 3's focus on action, deadlines, outcomes, that could be such a great help to the 4, bringing out the best work, pulling it out of their head and getting it into the real world so that it actually happens. Both can be creative in their own ways. Any type can be creative. I always want to be careful about the 4s having the monopoly on creativity, but they're creative. I think they have that reputation because they do look for the deeper meaning, the underlying meaning, and it is kind of a different, unique take, that creative take that maybe the rest of us aren't. 4s are just kind of naturally creative. 3s tend to be more naturally efficient, focused on efficiencies, effectiveness. And so when you have these 2 teaming up to work together, you get that creative, real, authentic creative depth, but with the kind of that outstanding, want to be seen as successful. The 3s bring maybe a little bit of a polished look. They're able to kind of polish the final product there. And it can be such a wonderful pairing right there. And then they both want to stand out. So striving to feel outstanding, striving to feel unique, have significance. It's in different ways and for different reasons, but 3s and 4s both care very much about not being ordinary. That is the worst thing in the world. For the 3s, when you look at the Enneagram, one of the lines is connected to the type 6. And that is what the Awareness to Action Enneagram calls the neglected strategy of the type 3. So the strategy for the 6 is striving to feel secure, striving to feel safe. Go along with what's been done before, the proven method, the status quo. Don't stand out. That could be risky, kind of thing. So That, interestingly, that is the type that the 3 tends to neglect the most. And so there's all kinds of growth opportunities in there. But just as we talk about, neither one of these want to be ordinary. They want to do big things, out of the box things. They both have that drive to be distinct and create work that maybe other teams, other coworkers wouldn't ever think about attempting. But because of that creativity, that drive to avoid being ordinary in the status quo, they're going to produce some really incredible things. Now, some potential friction points between these two. In the Schitt's Creek clip that you will hear in episode 167 from 2025, we have Moira starting to tell a story. She says something like, I woke up this morning with a pep in my step, and David saying, fast forward, please. And then she starts giving more backstory, and he says, skip over that part. And it's just such a good stereotypical example of this kind of push-pull between, let's just get to the point, but also the backstory is needed. The backstory, it has important information. So the first point of friction here is going to be speed versus depth. The 3s want to move. They want to go far. They want to go fast. The 4 wants it to be right and wants it to ideally be deeply meaningful as well. And so in practice, this might mean that the 3 is ready to hit go, is ready to present the idea, the product, before the 4 is really ready. And the 4 might still be wanting to kind of refine some things, tweak a few things, think on it a little bit more, while the 3 they've already sent the slide deck to the group to review for the meeting. There could also be another point of friction, could be this concept of authenticity versus adaptability. And we talked about that at the very beginning. 3s are those shapeshifters who would be in whatever they need to be, that political savviness to fit the room. 4s are going to tend to resist any shift like that feels like it's compromising who they are. Being unique, being one of a kind, being authentic are very core values to the type 4. So the 3 sees that shifting as absolutely needed adaptability. It's a skill that they have. It is a needed skill. And then the 4 might see that kind of shape shifting and feel uncomfortable with it, maybe get frustrated with it, maybe feel resistant to that person. But what the 3 might call just being professional, the 4's over here viewing it as inauthentic. And they'll probably say so. Maybe not always, but a lot of times they might be okay with calling it out. So you have that kind of push-pull. There might be some friction around recognition and visibility. So the 3s out of almost all the types are most comfortable in the spotlight. Now, this will vary when you factor in the instinctual biases, those subtypes of each types. We've talked before that the more you get into the Enneagram, there's a second layer, a second dimension where you have 3 flavors of each of the types. We have the preserving, the navigating, and then the transmitting. If you are a transmitter of any type, you will be a little bit more inclined, a little bit more uncomfortable to be that in the spotlight, have some eyes on you, because you want to transmit a message. You want to transmit an impact. And in order to do that, a lot of times you need to be in front of other people. So transmitting 3, very, very comfortable here. But a lot of times that striving to feel outstanding means, regardless of a 3's type, there will be varying degrees, but they're going to be a little bit more comfortable in the spotlight. And for some, like the transmitting 3s, maybe the navigating 3s, just kind of naturally move towards it. Whereas the 4 very much wants to be seen too, but they want to make sure they're being seen for the right reasons, in the right way, and for the deep, meaningful work that they contributed. They want to be understood. And that is one of the biggest pet peeves when we talk about workplace preferences and pet peeves of a type 4 is for somebody to assume that they know how they feel, that they understand what they're doing or who they are, misread their intentions in any way. Nobody likes that, but a 4 especially does not like that. So they want to be seen. They want to be understood. So when a 3 gets the credit, because they're tooting their own horn a lot of times, tooting their team's horn, letting people know the success that they just had, the small win that they just had. The 4 might feel like, well, I also contributed. Didn't you notice me over here? And so 1s also can struggle with this where they feel like, just based on merit, you should recognize me. You should recognize this incredible project that I did. I shouldn't have to toot my own horn. So a little nuance there between recognition and visibility, but there could be some friction there. The 4 might feel kind of resentful in the background, while the 3's in the spotlight telling everybody what they did. Let's see. And then this is one that is very stereotypical. So this may or may not ring true. I think this also depends on how much growth the 3 or the 4 in your life has done. But 3s tend to manage and minimize emotions in a professional setting. They feel like, hey, feelings are okay, but let's deal with it later. They shouldn't be slowing things down. They shouldn't be making us late on the agenda. We shouldn't be getting overly emotional when we have goals to work towards. Where the 4s, they live very close to their emotional experience. It's very hard to compartmentalize or separate that. And so they're kind of bringing those emotions, that sensitivity to the workplace. And I think a lot of times they can see it as, hey, this is me. This is a feature of me, not necessarily a liability or a negative thing to be. They will tend to have the perspective that feelings are facts. We have other types. I'm thinking of the 3. I'm thinking of the 5. I'm thinking of the 1. Feelings are not facts. Feelings are not facts. We should not consider those. So there's going to be just some natural friction with those 2 very different perspectives. The 3 might see the 4 as being too sensitive or too slow, taking too much time to navigate a hard day or a stressful situation. And 4s can feel like the 3 is emotionally unavailable. I'm not going to come to that person. Or it can feel like the emotions that they do have are very performative. And I think, again, on the flip side, a 3 would say, I'm polished, I'm calculated, I'm strategic with how I express my emotions. I'm not fake, I'm not performative necessarily. And then the last potential point of friction between these 2 is around creating meaning in the work. 4s really can struggle to go all in when something doesn't feel meaningful. If a 3 is chasing a goal, some sort of project that the 4 just finds shallow, hollow, it's going to be hard for the 4 to get on board and go along with the 3. Whereas the 3 is wired just to get things done. We don't need to sit around here and try to find the meaning in this. We don't need to make everything, put a creative, one-of-a-kind spin on everything. We just need to get it done. Now, when we talk about communication styles, the 3s tend to be very, and again, with all of these, we're talking stereotypes. Sometimes the typing process can be difficult because as people, as professionals, we are growing, we're developing, we're learning new things, we're becoming more aware of our blind spots. So we may not do the things that our type is describing that say say that we do or say that we struggle with. So I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just saying these are stereotypes to help us understand ourselves and others a little bit better. So tendencies of a type 3 communication style is efficient. It is polished, and a lot of times very results focused. They tend to lead with the headline. Cut to what matters. These people are not bearing the lead. They're not leading with the backstory. They're not giving context a lot of times. Their communication style also includes reading the audience and adjusting their tone, how they frame a situation, how they communicate, how they deliver whatever it is they're wanting to deliver based on who's in the room or who is across from them. They can minimize emotional content for the sake of let's keep things moving. And then feedback for a 3 is going to land best when it's framed around results, goals, performance, not just a personal critique or what somebody thinks of this person. They're going to want to see the data, and they want to understand how each point that the person is talking about is tied to their performance. And then the 4s, some common communication tendencies is going to be typically very meaningful, meaning driven. They're going to be probably a little bit more expressive. They want the conversation to go somewhere real. It's going to be really hard for our 4s to talk about the weather, talk about just those surface level conversations, which we need to do sometimes, but it is a pet peeve of a 4. It is very hard for them to do. So if they are talking about something like the weather, you know that it's not that easy for them. They've done a lot of work to be able to do that. They bring a lot of honesty, a lot of depth, to conversations, to thinking about things. And sometimes that can feel vulnerable. It can feel intense to some of the other types that like to just kind of keep it, let's just stay in our lane here and not bring in these other things. I'm thinking of a 3. I'm thinking of a 5, especially can feel emotionally overwhelmed. Sometimes a 1. An 8 potentially too. I think an 8 is a little more comfortable expressing their emotions, especially when it comes to like those like passionate emotions. I think they're a little bit more comfortable with that. But they too like to keep things moving forward. 4s can struggle being direct. And that can cause them to potentially feel misunderstood or truly be misunderstood or unseen. And the message that they were trying to get across ends up getting buried in the backstory. So the episode that I referred to, 167, I'm going to put in the show notes. The title of that one is Backstory versus Bullet Points. And that is so true. It's like, no, this backstory is needed here. And a type 3 is thinking, nope, just give me the bullet points. Just give me the 3 to 5 bullet points. And then when we're thinking about how best to deliver or give feedback to our type 4s, it's going to land best when you acknowledge the intention behind the work as well, not just the output. And I know for many of you, you're going to say, well, that is really all that matters is the output. A 4, though, with all of the things that we have talked about that is going on internally, the meaning that they want to have, that recognizing their intention is important. And it's important that you get it right and you don't assume, because they're going to appreciate it when you recognize that intention if it's correct. And they're going to feel some way about it if you assume wrongly their intention about something. And then the segment that I wanted to make sure we touched on was this leader versus teammate dynamic. So when the 3 is the leader in a situation and they're leading their type 4 direct report, the 3 leader is probably going to value the 4's ability to think creatively, to connect dots, to approach systems, processes, projects in fresh ways, until it starts to slow the project down. It starts to slow the delivery, the conversation. It can become frustrating for that 3 leader. The direct report here for the 4, it's important for them to feel that their contribution is genuinely seen and valued for its depth, not just for the surface level, the check the box kind of thing. And then when you're giving compliments or recognizing, appreciating your type 4, generic praise, just like routine transactional check-ins is not going to bring you any closer to your type 4 direct report in this situation. They want the praise to be very specific. They want to say, oh, this person really saw me with this recognition right here. And then, just be cautious of that, because it's not just a neutral impact that it will have on your type 4 report. It really will erode their engagement, their trust in the team and that relationship, if that happens too often. The 3s should resist the urge to polish, to reframe the 4's work without some sort of back and forth conversation dialogue, because otherwise that 4 is going to feel like, well, I had the best of intentions, even if that isn't what they wanted, that my intention was there. And so that's, again, where maybe the deliverable didn't land, but recognizing that intention and then working with that type 4 direct report to get the result that you need, while showing that you understand. So the growth opportunity for a type 3 leader in this situation is going to be slowing down long enough to actually understand, and if you need to, ask what the 4 is trying to do, understanding that intention, and then also setting aside time to connect and build rapport and allow a conversation to maybe, get a little emotional. You don't need to, read their diary. You don't need to get into everything. But if this person, it means a lot if it makes them feel seen when I can, to hear the backstory or the additional context around this. Let's schedule an extra 10, 15 minutes to this meeting so I don't feel rushed as a 3, and then the 4 feels like they've had enough time to share what they want to share. And then when the roles are reversed here, we have the type 4 leader with the type 3 direct report. That emphasis that you have as a type 4 leader on authenticity and meaning and depth, it can feel really good to you. You think, what is the problem here? But for a 3, it might feel like, gosh, that goalpost is always moving. I don't know where I am. I don't know actually what the goal is. What actually are we working towards? And so it can get kind of frustrating for the 3 in that situation. The 3 direct report really needs clarity on what success looks like, and they're going to appreciate it if you give them room to move fast, to jump in, and then be recognized for their results. The 4 wants to be recognized and understood. Very much the 3, somebody who is striving to feel outstanding, that getting recognized for their results is important too. The 4 leader, it's going to be important that their leadership style is known as the visionary, because they can create a very inspiring vision. They can create the why. Why are we doing this from the very beginning, to get people inspired, to get people on board. The 3s are going to get on board. They're gonna run hard, fast towards that meaningful goal, but they just need to be able to see it and to understand it. So as much as you can as a type 4 leader in this situation, cast that vision, explain the why early and probably often. And then the growth opportunity here for our type 4 leader is that 3 direct report is truly not trying to be shallow. They would say, I'm trying to be efficient. So, just kind of be aware of that story that you're telling yourself about what that might mean. And when you can, make room for that effectiveness, that efficiency that the 3 really appreciates and it's kind of their natural tendencies. And when you do that, they're going to bring more meaning to the work than maybe you even expected. So when we have teammates working together, we have this tension around productivity. One wants to slow down, think about, is there a new way to do this? The 3 tends to want to go with the most efficient, which tends to be what we've always done, the proven method in order to achieve that high level of success. The 3 is going to default to going far and fast, where the 4 typically is going to default into going deeper. Let's go deep. Both are needed, so necessary. Neither is going to feel like what they're contributing, though, is sufficient to the other without some sort of very intentional acknowledgement about what each other is contributing. So this is where that deep self-awareness is needed, as well as that others' awareness is needed here. And then the 3 really needs to, when you're asking for a 4's feedback, really allow them to share what they see, which is probably going to be very different than you, not just what are they delivering. And then on the flip side, the 4 really needs to voice a perspective, maybe that vision, before they start kind of getting in that melancholy, maybe airing some of those grievances. So some things to watch out for, but also can be such a powerful pairing. At the end of the day, the growth opportunity, the biggest growth opportunity for the 3 when working with the 4 is to feel, that striving to feel outstanding is what makes the 3 effective until it becomes the only thing that they care about. Not everything that has value or is valuable shows up with a scorecard or a grade. Not everyone on the team is going to be motivated by the same finish line that you are as a 3. So one of the things that you can do as either a leader or a teammate is practice asking, what does this work mean? Not just whether or not we hit the mark. The 4 across the table from you, sitting on the Zoom call with you, is not trying to slow you down. They're asking the question that makes the win, is it worth it? We won. Great. Was it worth it? What sort of meaning is behind this? And then for our 4s, the growth opportunity here as a leader, as a teammate, is that striving to feel unique and authentic is what makes your work genuinely distinctive, beautiful, memorable, until it becomes a reason to hold off on moving things forward, on shipping things, because it doesn't perfectly align with your vision. There's a lot of type 1 here with the 4. Not every project will be a masterpiece. Oh, I know the 4s listening are like, well, yes, it should be. It may not be, but it should be. So this is going to take some reframing of the stories around meaningful work, and not everything has to be deeply meaningful, one of a kind, unique, a complete masterpiece that's remembered forever and ever, right? Some things just need to get done. Some things just need to be shipped out. So practice bringing that creative, that fresh way to approach things to the work that's in front of you, and not just the work that you feel like is deserving of it. Just because it isn't as meaningful or isn't as special as what you'd want to do. So keep that in mind. The 3 across the table from you, the 3 sitting on that Zoom call, is not shallow. They're not trying to sell out. They're just showing you what it can look like when you let the work speak through action, and not just what you intended to do, but actually what you were able to produce, what the result was. So this pairing has access to so many incredibly powerful, incredibly influential things, the projects, conversations, new ideas, new takes, how to serve the client better, how to work with vendors better, how to make things more beautiful and also efficient. The work can be both excellent and deeply meaningful, but only if the 3 is willing to slow down long enough to let that meaning in, and only if the 4 is willing to move forward long enough to let things work out. So, none of this is easy, depending on which type you are on here. But all I would say is just reflect on some of these things. What do you do that you can lean more into, and where might there be opportunities to maybe shift some things, dial things up, back, down, based on the person in front of you. You might need to tweak some things. So this doesn't mean that you're being inauthentic, as a type 4 might feel. It just means, hey, or as a 3, that you're slowing down and you're gonna, miss the mark. You're going too slow. It could be true, but it also, there could also be some opportunities to create even better, collaborate even better, communicate, get things done, be that much more productive along the way. So with that, as always, if you happen to be a 3 or a type 4, I'm sure that there's something I missed. I'm sure that there's something that we could add. Maybe I said something that didn't feel true to you, that you could offer a different perspective. Always feel free to reach out. I typically am just talking from my perception of what I've seen in the real world, but it's my perception of that, what I hear other people say, and then paired with Enneagram theory, but you're the one living it. So if you have specific examples of how any of this has showed up, I always love to hear from you, and you can reach out and share those comments at enneagramMBA.com/contact. And then I will say, if you are interested in bringing these types of insights to your team, to your organization, maybe for a special retreat event, check out our workshop options. And then we have a momentum program. We have our Dream Team certification program, where we're able to really get in deep with some of these things and start to really apply it specifically to your team and the unique coworker chemistry that your team or organization has. And all of those options are over at enneagramMBA.com. With that, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.